Hello, all, and welcome to Bennis Stories, a series of interviews with people who knew, loved, were influenced by, worked with, wrote with, were students and mentees of Warren Bennis. This is Kate Bennis, Warren's daughter. This series is created for the Warren Bennis Leadership Institute at the University of Cincinnati's Lindner College of Business. My partner in this endeavor is Betsy Myers. Betsy was a dear friend and colleague of Dad's, worked with him at the Center for Public Leadership at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government as its executive director. She has also been a senior advisor to both President Clinton and President Obama. Today, Betsy and I are delighted to welcome Mariko Gakiya. Mariko I met because she was a student of Dad's while she was getting her PhD at Harvard in leadership studies at the Kennedy School. You'll learn more about that. And I met her because she was recommended by Dad to join a women's leadership program that Joan Goldsmith was running. And Joan is also one of the Warren Bennis Leadership Institute council members. Dear colleague and friend of Dad's. So there's a lot of connections here, and I'm so happy that I was connected to Mariko, who is one of the most interesting thinkers about leadership and women's leadership that I've met. Mariko is an experienced academic and executive professional with demonstrated history of working globally in higher education, international diplomacy, private and non-private sectors, focused on sustainability and creating shared value strategies. Her research aims to advance the understanding and practice of leadership innovation and organizational change, focusing on human resiliency, well-being, and peace building. She's particularly interested in how the physical and psychological and psychosocial environment shapes human development and societal well-being. Welcome, Mariko. Hi, Mariko.
Hi.
Hi. So we're here, Betsy and I are here with Mariko Gakiya, who was a student of Dad's. You got a degree at Harvard 2004. You worked with him. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's my doctorate. Seems like quite a while ago. I was a doctoral student working on my thesis and finishing up all my classes. So it was 2001, or I heard that there will be the first kind of a doctoral seminar focused on the leadership. First time at HBS, Harvard Business School. So we all thought, studying about the leadership theories and leadership exercise, we must take the class. We got so excited. So we immediately registered the class, and then the Warren Bennis from California really, truly arrived in cold Boston. And we got so excited. So now was the really first kind of a doctoral seminar on leadership at the Harvard in the history of all these classes we have been taking, but focus on PhDs. So that was a very signature kind of development. And then we really focus on what he has to offer, learning about global affairs to how a person can understand our own potential and understanding all the context and so on. So many different angles that he was able to bring to the table. So it was a very special class where I met. 2002 was the class that he offered.
And tell us about that class, because wasn't it kind of a small class? And there were really interesting people in class with you that I'm hoping we can speak to. And you're still pretty close with that class. Is that correct?
Yeah, see, that's the energy. No, that's the kind of a gift that Warren has given to all of us. It's a PhD seminar. The seminars for PhD, they're usually very small, but we talk really in depth and the breadth of conversation that we have to really come through to analyze and critically seeing the phenomena and academia, and then how applicable it is to understanding the leadership exercise and behaviors. We got along, I think it was like about 15 or 12 students, and the measuring in organizational behaviors or human development areas dive into the area of own research too. So everybody had their own research topics. but everybody was really into trying to come up with the best theoretical framework or literature review, because we have to master that level to make sure that there is a gap and an opportunity that we need to fill in to make sure that we strengthen understanding of leadership, and then to provide a more holistic approach to leadership theories. So that was the class. And then we talked on and on endlessly. And then the class usually end whatever the time, the 90 minutes, but nobody left. So we got along each other. We had a parties, and then we had the different guests coming to the class. So when you think about this class, very unique but very rich. It's 3 to 4 months, beginning of the class, in the middle section, and then toward the end, how the dynamics of class has shifted. So it was a whole new kind of seeing yourself. And then really we developed the camaraderie among our team. So we are still very close to each other. We communicate to each other. So it's a blessing that we have from Warren at the business school.
Yeah.
He was a visiting professor to particularly teach and then launch this PhD leadership seminar. That was the first year was us. Everything was maybe the experiment, but he did so wonderfully that we all enjoyed it so much.
So, what do you think it was that he did? How did he structure each session? Because we're thinking a lot about the curriculum for teaching leadership and how to glean from the people who knew Dad and worked with him. But you are in a very special position because you were a student. And that's really interesting to know. What was it that he did for each class? And what do you think was the special sauce that made you all come together and be connected in that deep way? Because if we could replicate that, it would be great, right?
First to few classes at the beginning, but to really bring the different theoretical lens and then what we need to know and the fundamentals of leadership. But what the bulk of class was designated was inviting the real practitioners, inviting the different kind of leadership coaches and people who are actually doing the work on the ground.
Yeah.
We've been studying as a PhD student. We've been only reading and then studying, really debating and then discussing and then writing. But when it comes to real essence of what you want to contribute, you want to hear real voices.
Yes.
So, it's really the miracle things was that he brings the people who are actually on the ground, like Bill George, and then other CEOs who come to the class and saying that leadership is not the beautiful story, it's a messy life. You really have to get ready. It's the determination you have. Give your life and then give your all energy, commit whatever the best performance you can do for the people. Warren really beautifully create a scenario that if we are not physically and then cognitively and then mentally ready, not healthy, then you won't be able to see that real fact in it. So he really lays the groundwork of bringing the literature, but he will ask each student, how was your life? Where were you born and raised? And what kind of struggle that you had? And if you are in that particular situation, like case studies. But his approach was very different. I'm from Japan and then female, very unusual for the Japanese even to do the doctor work. I think I was the only Asian and then only woman from Japan.
Wow.
Because he will ask that kind of question, why? Why in the US? What the hell? But very in a nice way that what really ignites you, what you want to study. So he is so good at personalizing that the learning become really real, that I realize why I feel so connected to the subject. And then he would say, so what's the issues? Or what do you see something that you want to work on in the society that really drives you to learn and drives you to get better so that you can create the community or you can create cognitively about the solution itself. So he is very good at really bringing the a multidisciplinary approach, not for academic per se, but really bringing the different practitioners. And then one amazing thing was that MBAs are maybe more a practical bottom line kind of approach. But for a doctorate student, we want to debate and then we want to have a little bit deeper conversation and then to be able to teach. He is so good at bringing a young or another scholars in the class who are actually in the leadership subject area, like around 5 years. He was still kind of crafting his own theories. So Warren, I saw him, Warren really helped him to come up with adaptive theories. And then all of our classmates witnessed that how Ron was discussing with our class, really asking a lot of great questions, but Warren was into the question so that you see the elevation of content. And then a few years later, and then later, we saw a great level of advancement in his adaptive leadership that really disseminated into greater world. So this kind of mentoring the younger the leadership scholars and then the practitioners. So in that one semester, 4 months, we are so lucky to have real practitioners, female, both genders, a different background of practitioners, and then all the scholars and then the researchers and practitioners. Like we had people from aerial group. They gave a coaching session and theater, and it was amazing. Nobody thinks that the linkage that time. Now it's quite a popular kind of a practice, but that time we are puzzled. Why Professor Bennis, such a renowned professor, is bringing actor and an actress. What is he doing? But once they came and then gave a whole scenario and an outline, oh my God, at the end, it was one of the most impactful lessons. We still talk about it. How it was very critical because they give you the really the presence, how you really talk to the people, and nobody wanna look yourself, but it's really important how we engage in the conversation and then how you try to make meaning out of conversation. So that class was really transformational in terms of the pedagogy, in terms of your personal development. It's really not only the cognitive. He was really able to connect what's the essence in academia, but connected to the personal development as adult, as professional, as a global citizens. I think it's very, very important in this stage. I really appreciate that he made all of us to feel we are all interconnected. Whatever happens at the HBS in Boston, it's not only there or DC or East Coast. It's really connected to the Europe, East and then West. So the massive knowledge that he has, incredible. Okay. So what happened in the Germany? Okay, what happened in Japan and what happened in China? So da 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 da. So it's like an encyclopedia. You are like looking. It's now we can talk Chat GPT. I was really thinking about it. We talk Chat GPT, but his brain was like that. Done, 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 done. So he just summarized it and said, really, literally. Now whole aspect of academic teaching. It's ChatGPT, how can you really use AI, da, da, da. But Warren already, I think he had ideas about where the world is going because he ensured that, a multi kind of layers perspective. We have to learn to adapt and then to provide that kind of a synchronicity and then mutual gain. That was something that we are already trained in a way. So it's so much learning. That's why I think ongoingly we just have to share all the classmates together. Everybody is doing extremely well. Everybody is very successful. I think that class was really kind of gave us all this green light and to bound together and transform our life.
it was amazing is the depth of memory you have about that class. That was 20 years ago, right? That's incredible.
Because after that, I had an opportunity to, I worked for Wall Street first, and then I always had a communication with Warren. And then even though I was working, I had an affiliation with a research institute at the Harvard. So I was going back and forth. I was always interested in how can we really take practical application into connecting to the academic writing and teaching. Uh, and then after that, after a couple of years, and I got an offer to establish together with my wonderful colleague at the Tokyo University to start global leadership program. I really enjoyed my corporate life, but I also craved for something intellectual kind of a stimulus. And I didn't know what to do and talked to the Warren Bennis, the global leadership in the program. And he said, you had a great experience in Wall Street. Because before then, I worked in a public sector, more like international development and diplomacy. Some people said I must have a private sector experience. So I had both, and I wanted to combine that. But the bottom line was that he asked me, what's the vision? What's the mission in life? Given where you're from, you got to have that. He is so good at asking question, why you are doing particular things for what? That really makes you think about who am I? Why I feel so close to the issues. There's some of the social justice issues that I really feel keen to learn and improve. I'm from the South in Japan, the Okinawa, my parents, which was the worst battlefield, World War II. So
Yes.
104 people passed away, they died. Warren, he's so good at it in the inquiry base, right? He asked a question. Our family didn't talk much because my parents and then my grandparents, it's a trauma that they have, no?
Yes.
So they didn't, all this generation went to the World War II and the Holocaust, and then we all know about how much hurdle that they have to go through to raise us in a way, right? So Warren really reminded me that was something that I think we got so connected. He really kind of told me, Mariko, you have to think about what you can do for your people. You can always influence Wall Street because there are tons of people,
Yeah.
even in the Boston area. But think, you are a miracle. He told me, you are a miracle that your great grandparents and then they arrived, and my parents survived. Grandparents, especially, they survived. And my mom was, I think, 1 or 2 years old when the war happened. My dad too. And then I was born. See, so it's just such a miracle thing. And then my uncle, who was really educated and who is in our family more academic person, he was a professor. Usually in Japan, if the daughter wanted to study graduate school in abroad and then study more and more, typical case is that the girls, a woman, why she wants to study more and more? It's not enough to get a master's degree. Why PhD or doctorate? Find a good husband and marry well. That's the kind of fairy
Yeah.
tale, usually the case. So Warren really reminded me, and my uncle really helped convince my parents and to study. So Warren notes that all the story about it's not a vital that you only educate yourself. You have to think about greater goods for the public and how you can really, and my small contribution, do something for our world, our society, our community. I am so keen to learn about how can I help other people to develop their fullest potential through the leadership development, through the understanding of adult development, through the understanding of learning agility. So these are the area that I'm keen. So Warren told me to, why don't you really challenge? You can always come back, but you have done enough study, enough study, so long, isn't it? In Boston, so long. I also studied in the UK. My graduate work is very long. I got very fortunate. So apply it and learn from it. Make a lots of quick failure or mistake, and then you bounce it back and then you learn. So he really told me, oh, that's the joy of learning. You're lucky that you can exercise and that you can grasp what you can do through experimenting, and then so that you can refine it, your own method, own philosophy about leadership. So that's what I did. And then I learned so much. I actually have beautiful photos and then others. And then first year or second year, I always visited Warren in California. And then my opening of the lecture, every time that I gave every year lecture, his theory, it was Joe Goldsmith, and all these case studies, that was the kind of anchoring method and the content that I provided. I'm very, very fortunate that that was for a graduate student, master's, mainly for the PhD at the Tokyo University, hosted at the medical school, but a student coming from all different major, different background. It's like a more center of excellence. Very fortunate to have a wonderful student, including international student. So we train them half a year, and then other half a year, they go to Gates Foundation, GE, you name it, all the top corporation and the top international institution. So guess what now? In Japan, we have end of the year, very well-known top publishers. They name top 10 businesswomen of the year. My student ranked top 3. Because that's through the Warren Bennis effect. And then I see that now. It's not me. All these people really feed into, really affecting. So I'm going to Geneva in a week. And I'm seeing my former student from China, where she's working, UN, in charge of data science AI at headquarters. So those students, and then some are in the medical field, they became medical doctors, but really on the forefront of research and cancer center, and then others. Everybody is incredibly doing very well. Yes, on top of their subject area mastery, but I think they learn how to harness about self-control, self-development. I think what Warren taught us was that we need to always cross-check each other, morally, ethically, because we have a tremendous responsibilities. The more you have heavy burden or responsibility, that you have to make sure that your decision is anchoring toward greater goods for the public, for the common people. So the ethical and moral clarity and inequality is so critical. The integrity that he used to say is really the core of what he taught us. I think all of us really, it's synced. It's ingrained in our gene now. Make sure that we check in each other. Is this decision sounds okay, that we can carry on? Or what are the kind of a pitfall that we have to make sure that we have to look into? So always developing cross-check, but there is always downturn. We have to learn to be resilient. Resilient means that we have to understand the risk that associate with the growth, personal risk and an organizational risk, any risk that we encounter. We have to have a community of people to mobilize, listen to the different voices, different ideas. I think one thing is Warren taught was the connecting with the people, and then also sharing, be vulnerable, be open for the ideas. So that is actually the strength, because 20 years ago, strong man, you know the best, you can conquer. That was the theory. Remember old days? But now, what he used to tell us, it's now really the mainstream. It took us 20 years to come to this stage. That's so funny. Whenever I see the note, whenever I look at the top journals, all this inclusiveness, and then all this authenticity, and then to have a network of team or your professional communities, and the purpose-driven, mission-driven, and vision-driven society. It's so critical. Servant leadership to all that. He was already teaching. Honestly, he was teaching everything. I just people are now catching up. Literally, the world is catching up now, bit by bit. I think that whatever you do, you're harnessing everybody's voice now, what we have learned. I really hope that somebody will come up with a encyclopedia of what he has taught us, because there's so much strong lesson as a professional, as an individual, that we make sure that how we learned, how we understand the world, we give, that's the gift from Warren that pass on to the next generation. Because without, that wisdom, we suffer. Look at what is happening now. So much division in the world.
Yes.
What the Warren did was connecting, and then also, bringing all of us together. We have to really do that kind of exercise, or we have to really make sure that we connect to see a commonality rather than seeing differences that furthers divided into the different ideologies. I hope that you guys will kind of work on it, but we will pitch in if it's necessary. And then I think we really need a different kind of a perspective in life. The human beings can do much better than what we have now at the moment. And this year it's particularly critical. 70% of global population is going through the different kinds of elections. So it's going to determine what kind of leadership, what we're going to have, isn't it? Warren used to tell us like a quality of life is determined on quality of leadership. I really think so. So I think we have to really cross-check each other, what we have learned in our life, and then what are the kind of tools or the story, that narrative that we want to craft and then share to the practitioners, or scholars, and then people who are interested in this field.
Mariko, I just want to say, first of all, I'm so grateful for everything you're saying. It echoes a lot of what other people have said, but in such a clear way, because from your perspective as a student, you were there in the class from beginning to end. And the things that are really striking to me are vision, personal vision for the good of others. It comes up again and again. You said it so many times. What is going to be good for the world? Also, that he seemed to teach through questions, not telling you, not just presenting a theory. And of course, the application, like him saying to you, you studied enough, go do it. Go do it.
Walk the talk,
Walk the talk, walk the talk. A co-op program is built into the University of Cincinnati. And it was the same at Antioch when Dad went there right after World War II. They had what's called a co-op program, where the schools send you out to work and get experience. And then also you get paid. And so it's not an internship. You're having a job and you get paid. And then you get a resume and you have experience in the field. So he was a huge believer in practice. Get out there and try it on.
He embodies that, his own, the concept of what it means to have a leadership understanding and a leadership academy.
Yeah. When you teach, do you use a lot of his methods? Do you find yourself saying, oh, I should ask a question here? Or do you?
Always. Oh my God, you see my slide, and then 15 lectures in one semester, for I have a few different classes. My class always start with global context, because he used to tell us mastering of the context. You have to master what is happening in the world. I have to start with that. Otherwise, I don't get energized that I'm teaching. So I am always connected somehow. I'm always keen to learn about global affairs. That really, Warren really deepens joy of learning through that lens. Mm-hmm. So I'm always constantly looking into the politics, economics, but through the lens of that mastering the context. How can I understand the leadership practice in this context? Different players and in a different risk and a different opportunity. So I do that. I've always bring the very interesting guest speakers and then the cases. Warren was very good. Whatever happens on that day or the previous day, the news, real news, or some scandals, the corporation, he will say, so what do you think? What's your understanding? So I always say that if something really big things that happens, election or whatever, so what does it mean to exercise leadership? What do you think that the leader can do, or a leader is doing something misleading? Or so make learning very visible, but really real. That's something I'm still learning. I have a lots of room to improve, but I get the really joy of really developing the pedagogy and facilitating the conversation. I think my style is really, I'm so trained in the West. Currently, I'm in Japan. Japanese student and Asian student usually a little bit quiet. I have to give additional time to smoothen the climate, but I'm also learning that.
So in terms
So
of
you've been
that, oh, sorry.
well, I'm sorry. Have you been able to get your students then in your class to be more open and that's a whole different style, right? That you're bringing.
So what the blessing step is that he taught us, if the students are not used to really open debate, I can always go back and then like an inquiry, like a survey question. Before the class, after the class, always check in. Oh, your comment, and I know some students say, oh, I wanted to say this, but couldn't do it. And then it's just 1, 2 sentences. We send a check-in, and then I know, okay, this student want to say that. So I kind of prompt them. Okay, I may ask that question, or that was so good. So why don't you explain? So I kind of give kind of priming, no? Priming them so that they can get ready. And then, believe it or not, toward the end of the semester, the very shy people are the ones that very much hard to stop. I think I really, it's the joy that I have. I thought I don't enjoy teaching, honestly, at the beginning when I was a doctoral student. But bottom line, really now, I love teaching. I love teaching. I think that teaching is a reciprocal kind of exchange that I learn so much from them. That's a part of my research that I'm interested in, is that try to understand Gen Zs when they come to the workforce. They will be leading in the 21st century new model of industrial development, right? All this digital transformation. How and what would be really critical for them to exercise leadership? No?
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that's why that connection that I said was really transgenerational kind of teaching as a human beings, especially that all the technology can advance, but humans are humans. Who is the humans? Isn't it? Warren used to tell us all this technology, but you are more important. No, the machine cannot replace exactly like you. So who is the humans? I always say, so who is the humans? Nobody can replace Kate and Betty. No. So I think that's the connection, and then that kind of humility also. It's sitting here, that be open and really trying to learn. If I make a mistake or if I didn't have enough knowledge to understand the context or didn't give enough awareness to others, I go back and then reflect and then trying to be a more causal or a mindful about my deed. So I believe always that there is a room to improve, and to do that, I want to be healthy. I want to enjoy my life, and to be surrounded by the people like Kate and then others that always, if I have some question that I can, oh, can I just talk a little bit so that I can just share the ideas? So that kind of a community is very critical. I want people to develop the trust,
Yes.
the relationship, whatever they have.
So I'm just
So
curious
Warren,
that you bring this kind of thinking and teaching to Japan. How have your colleagues reacted to this? Have you gotten pushback? Have people been judgmental? Or have you also kind of been able to bring some people along as
I think
colleagues?
I think at the beginning was looking at like a Western educated the person or professors giving the lectures, but because the essence is just so universally appropriate and then so significantly important, and lecture that I gave, and then also private lecture, and then also I gave corporate lectures and sitting on the board, and then others, people started to really catch up. And then lots of people, the Warren's book has been translated, and I always gave a blurb, really endorsement. So now it's a mainstream. Most of the people in this field, they recognize his work. Okay. And then he's on becoming leaders. The first endorsement is by Peter Drucker. He is sitting in Japan, the top and top, the Warren Bennis Academy, the teaching. I feel personally that I owe him so much that I really continue to share because it's so deeper. And why he experienced himself too. He has really gone through so many phases of his self-development, but he's so humble. Some other people may kind of craft it and then share a very different way, but for him, some people like to build a castle, but within himself, there are different ways that you can model. For Warren was always sharing, always others. That's something that I really find very, very unusual and very unique. That's the strengths of really real leaders. We really miss that. And then that's my goal, that I hope I connect people, and I always trying to see bright side of other people so that we can grow together.
I love that.
I love that. Lift others up, that's the job of a leader. Can you imagine if that was in the job description of a leader, someone who helps lift other people up? From the very beginning, Mariko, you were saying something about the self-development, but in all the different realms. Health, physical health was part of it, you mentioned, and emotional and mental and academic, all of those realms, just the whole self. I wanted to ask you a kind of Warren Bennis question. What is your vision that you're working on?
That's so funny. You see, Kate can capture the gritty, the content really, really superb way. I mentioned that it have to be very healthy, not only your mind to work, but you spiritually and then also physically. Warren used to tell us that you have to be healthy, Mariko, your spirit and your soul. 20 years ago, and I was still in my early 30s or late 20s or whatever. Is he a religious person or what is he talking about? Not much paying attention to. But later on, once you get older, you recognize your body changes, and then it's so critical for us to take good care of your own health. And Orange class, he talked about his shoulder was aching, how to choose the good therapist. So he had a good methodology to choose what is good for his own body. It's not to only heal your physical, but connecting to your soul, your practice, entire body itself. So Tokyo University was very interesting. It's a global leadership program. It was at the medical school. It was a perfect combination for me. So my student, the future medical doctors, but they want to apply to the corporate world because the medical devices and then all this different kind of innovation was happening that time. And so business and then medical and also the education specialists and all sort of background engineers and computer sciences. So you can name it, because we're trying to bring all the different disciplinary background of a student so that they can learn to innovate, invent some ideas, and then innovate their practice. So innovation takes whole societal change, but invention, they can talk within their team. Da, 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 da. So my vision is that through the teaching, through the understanding of each other, I want to really go deeper, my research, my practice, but contributing to greater good of the society, that the young people and older people, because we now live much longer. I think 100 years is in Japan is now practically everywhere. Every place that I go, I meet centenarians. And there is a festival for centennial gymnastic festival. I really wanted to create a community through the understanding of leadership and then also this learning and innovation practice to give each of men, women, or different background people to believe their capacity to develop together to create a society where we can depend on each other, where we can minimize the conflict, to live together, to harmonize our life, because life is just, it's a miracle because we have so many earthquakes. So you never know tomorrow what is going to happen. So I just don't want to take granted for we're going to live just 10 years, 20 years. Give some sunshine into each of people that who come to my life, that there is a really something that they have special, that I can help them to grow. I can help them to can advance in their profession. But I think a profession, whatever they do, is connected to what they believe they are good at it. And then we recognize in the community so that that this person has a room for people to recognize and then also appreciate. So that kind of a community, it's very important that it doesn't matter where, no? I'm so global that I feel so closely to go to the US and then Europe. And then also I love visiting with Bangladesh and Thailand and others. So I'm very open that I just trust in the human being's capacity to love and support each other. So my contribution, my vision is how can we create an individual who can really build a society that can, elevate our love and support uh, for our long life, but a content and then a much more peaceful life.
Thank you, Mariko. Can I ask, is there anything else you want? I know it's so beautiful. Betsy, it's so beautiful. Just, I think Dad would so agree with that. He'd be so happy. So, is there anything else that we should ask you or that you want to add to this? And we can always come back and add something later, but if you think of it.
When I was a student, Kate, I was just really like freshman. We were so concerned to pass the exam, all this qualifying paper, 24 hours exam or whatever, exam. And then the passing proposals. So I had no room for my personal professional development. I was just so worried that if we can graduate passing. That's why I feel my life is in a way the miracle. If I came 1 year later or earlier, I didn't take Warren Bennis' doctoral seminar. That first year, I was just happened to be there, perfect timing. It was following year that I couldn't because I really have to finish up my dissertation. No time. But the perfect storm hit.
Yeah.
And then Warren really gave my life that the learning about the leadership is actually for me to develop my own identity and own development. I'm still learning a lot of stuff that I have to acquire and then equip myself. But through his teaching, I am so grateful that he gave me a life. He gave me really the life to continue to work in this area. I just hope that we can all connect this community. This is so important that especially now.
Oh,
Oh my God. I was just reading just before this our talk started. Everything that he mentioned, it's here. How the world needs to come together, the values and the ethics that we are all to be together. But there is always some different trivial kind of crisis comes. We are there to get training and make sure that reconcile and mitigate
yes.
that. So that's something that I really want to work on. So to engage with you folks, both of you or any colleagues, that we also have to have a place space or place that we can articulate.
Yes.
And I hope the Betsy and Kate will do that in the platform. So I'm just so grateful that as long as I live, I will make sure that his work will continue and we add to the essence of what he taught. It's because look at how precise, how clarity that he brings in his writings. We read so many different articles to the books, but every time I read, I get so emotional and I get goosebumps because it's just incredible gift, so powerful.
Is that book on becoming a leader, is that the one that you would recommend for if all the students at the university to read?
This one is must.
Yeah.
But there are other books, there's so many other books, Geeks and Gears and the Crucible moment, that how we really understand ourselves through the adversarial scenario experiences. So there are so many other books. Once you read, you fill in other books. That's the magic.
I just have one more quick question for you. How did, as a young person that met Warren, how did his teachings, you see how it's influenced your work and your leadership journey, but how did it influence your personal life?
I became much more open. I was shy. Compared to other Japanese, very open, I think. But still, think about the HBS, Harvard Business School, doctoral seminar. Everybody is just really confident, and then the most outspoken. You have to be very verbally strong to articulate, your ideas. You are on top of top to compete or really share on the ground. And Warren made me feel very comfortable that I felt my ideas, even it's not perfectly composed, but he was, oh, Mariko, so what do you think about it? Very, in a way, smooth way. That's the gift.
Yes.
And he is really good at bringing different ideas and different groups. I just, if we have more people like Warren Bennis, we have much less conflict.
Yes.
Because we know we have so many people we can grow together, we share, we learn together. So that is something that I really think, it's a Warren Bennis Academy for Diplomacy. I always felt that way. I used to tell students that my number one gift that I got among all that, it's really a beautiful side of a cultural diplomacy, the corporate diplomacy that he really instilled in us, that you have to connect with people. And then he used to tell us, good leaders, real leaders knows or design organization to connect people. The leaders knows the organization, that whatever the institution, which is to really connect and to really build through the relationship. I really think so. That's something that I want to value, because once you have the connection, you continue to learn and then share. There is a room for hope for solution to come together. I think it's now that all the stereotypes or whatever, hostility, that people just don't talk. I hope we can come together.
Yes.
I think together we are much better than being, and it gives you a meaning in life.
Yeah. Yeah, the Japanese must scratch their head like, really? Like, how does this even happen in the US?
The politically and the militaristically, we are ally.
Yes.
Whatever happens, it hits immediately.
Yes.
We are together on this journey. It's really, we are together. No matter what happens, we cannot divide it. We are together. Make sure that whatever we promote, it's have to be based on saving the lives rather than destroying it.
I'm so glad to speak. We'll talk later. Bye, you guys.
Until again, so nice meeting you.